This is called the high road in overcoming.
I was introduced to Redmond's class by a current student, and prior to me going, I heard amazing things, such as
Redmond having his own studio in Inglewood with all the equipment you can think of.
He had classes twice a week.
He had a class twice a week, and he was hired for production jobs. He would bring his students for hands-on experience.
Which was one way a student could pay off their tuition for the class. And lastly, that he could let us borrow his equipment to make our own class project. It sounded like a great opportunity.
Over the time taking the class, I noticed the sarcastic, playful tone Redmond would use towards his students. So when it came down to me, I paid it no mind. I held my tongue through snarl remarks because I did not want to seem like the sensitive one or disrespectful, but mainly because I wanted to finish the class and get a good project out.
The remarks probably would not have bothered me if they had not turned sour and directed towards me. Little did I know, this was the start of letting him get away with more than sarcasm, but down-talking and discrimination.
Certain ways I felt he treated me differently from other students was one, the fact that he would not let me shoot my project until my paperwork was flawless, which was the process I thought everybody had to go through. But I later found out other students were shooting without turning in finished paperwork. I brushed it off, knowing I should not compare myself with other students. The second was him not letting me get the hands-on experience the same other ways that students did on their first event. I was put in certain positions that seemed normal for first-timers, but was removed by Redman. Once again, I tried not to compare myself, and I assumed it was for a good reason.
Looking back, it was not about the comparison, but my personal education that I felt was being compromised. It took me all up into June 8th to realize this.
June 8th was 3 weeks after I gave Redmond my final draft of paperwork, and the 5th day I asked if he had read over it yet. It was the day he finally let me borrow the equipment to shoot my project while giving me discouraging information. He informed me that my 2-week schedule I had planned for 3 months now was cut down to 5 days because graduation was June 19th. He also informed me that he was only allowing me to shoot one of those 5 days, simply because he didn't think my documentary of interviewing people, 30 people at 10 different locations, was not necessary. Of course, I was going to have to cut some things down considering he waited so long to let me shoot my project. But he basically told me I could use the equipment and not do my project.
He also informed me that I could not edit my project without paying him for my tuition, which I thought was worked off by the events I did. Even after we made the deal that I would pay him periodically and the payment would be cut down if I worked for him, he decided to go back on his word and continue to insist I pay him the full amount. It was at this point I decided to quit. I was emotionally distraught, not because I did not think I would be able to finish my project, but instead because of the way I let him treat me.
Later that day, June 8th, a former employee of mine called a few of my references. I gave her to check and see how I was doing. We both received a disturbing response from Redmond. Since she had worked with me before and got positive responses from other references, she knew something was wrong and decided to talk to me about it. In the conversation between Redmond and my employer, Redmond assassinated my character by saying I was not a team player. I had a bad attitude and I do not listen.
In the conversation between Redman and my employer, Redman assassinated my character by saying I was not a team player. I had a bad attitude and I did not listen. Well, it was undeniable that I got along with all of my classmates and helped with most of their projects. My eager and ambitious radiance was impossible to ignore, and the only thing I could listen to was Redman constantly brushing me off when I needed help, and him putting me down, telling me things that I could not do.
These were just opinions, of which there will be many more from many others, but there is one statement that I want to bring to attention that even my employer found to be spiteful.
Which was, and I quote, "She wanted to make a project, but how could I let her if she won't listen?" Note, this was said just hours after he gave me the equipment. I knew he was not trying to help me make my project, but I did not think he was trying to prevent it.
I knew he wasn't trying to help me make my project, but I didn't think he was trying to prevent it.
The question that I have is if he saw an issue with the way I performed in the classroom, why didn't he take the responsibility to talk to me about it instead of stringing me along, fully aware that he was not gonna let me get the same education as my classmates? Why didn't he at least try to counsel me?
But when the opportunity came to tell someone else about me, he jumped at the chance.
On this journey, I realized Redman is considered a great teacher, which leads me to believe he's never treated a student like this before. With this being said, I really do hope I was the first, and even more that I was the last.
Although I do feel foolish for accepting his bigotry, I do not regret the class. I would just like to acknowledge the fact that anything I learned I will take with me for the future was taught to me by Bobby and Jonathan, Redman's assistants.
It was suggested that I write a letter to Mr. Redman's boss, but I decided to do something more with my character. So as you can see, this is not just a letter, but a script. Might as well prove I can turn even the most negative experience and turn into inspiration for my craft.
I would have liked to make a video that made Redman realize how malicious he was. But since the situation was taken to this extent, I have to assume that he would not care one way or the other. In addition, I will use this video for myself, not only to stand up for myself and bring light to the truth, but to share the lesson I've learned. It is not called quitting when you simply separate yourself from a bad situation, and leaving can get you to the next stepping stone of your life.
Redman, I want you to know, I will not only make this project, I will make many others.
There will be many more.
There will be many more for many others.
Listen as your day unfolds, challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears. Go ahead, release your fears. Stand up and be counted, don't be ashamed to cry. You gotta be bad, you gotta be bold, you gotta be wiser. You gotta be hard, you gotta be tough, you gotta be stronger. You gotta be cool, you gotta be calm, you gotta stay together. All I know, love will save the day. Herald what your mother said, read the books your father read, trying to solve the puzzles in your own sweet time. Some may have more cash than you, others take a different view. Together. All I know, love will save the day. Time asks no questions, it goes on without you, leaving you behind if you can stand the pace. The world keeps on spinning, can't stop it if you try to. This part is dangerous, staring you in the face. Whoa. Listen as your day unfolds, challenge what the future holds, try to keep your head up to the sky. Lovers, they may cause you tears, go ahead, release your fears. My